And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside, SPD off. Bring in, SPD off. Off. It's orange!
45. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Jingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. Keep that. Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Well, hello everyone, and we can see here a booster roll. Like, what's going on at Starbase, right? Yeah, so we're live, of course, here watching Booster 15 rolling out, hopefully for the last time, to the launch site and preparing for Flight 11 of Starship. My name is Alex. You know me already. I'm the guy with the long name. And we are live here. Of course, I'm not the only one on commentary, though. I have Ryan Weber here with me on commentary. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Alex. Yeah, we're just kind of holding down the fort here, you know. Yeah, booster rollout though. So yeah, I mean, you get two people with the long answers, so we'll see how long this goes for, of course. But yeah, booster 15 rolling out for flight 11.
Yeah, and you know, this is a special roll because it's the last time we're going to see a rollout of a booster to the launch site on this version of the booster and also on this configuration of the pad. To be honest, it's the last flight from pad 1 in its current configuration, so it's going to be, you know, a little bit more special than usual. And of course, it seems like SpaceX had sort of this sort of planning here of saying, you know, instead of rolling it at 4 a.m., let's roll it at 10 a.m., you know, during daylight. So, you know, as usual, we're going to be running this like any other live stream, right? So if you have any questions, tag at NASASpaceflight in chat, and also now as well at NSF. And, you know, I'll be in the panel and everything, and I'll grab your questions and whatnot, and we'll try to answer those. But, you know, just to get some people up to speed, Ryan, like what's sort of been the timeline since we last were here? Because we were here for the Ship 38 static fire like a couple of weeks ago, right? Like what's sort of being in a short mode, if you will, what's sort of been the few steps that we've seen in the last few days and weeks?
Well, I mean, they rolled out booster 15. Ooh, let me grab my my spreadsheet here real quick. I rolled out booster 15 on September 26th, out of the Mega Bay and into the Rocket Garden, and then shortly after that they did 12. So they emptied the Mega Bay of old boosters for modifications to the bay itself. We didn't see any lifts up on it at the Rocket Garden, so it likely already has its flight termination system installed when it was in the bay, which is, you know, it's been ready for at least the last week and a half, 2 weeks or so, would be my guess. And now it's kind of rolling out. The next steps are basically, you know, we got to see Ship 38 go. We don't know when that's going to go right now. We don't have any closures or anything. Plus, it needs its Starlinks. It's Simlinks, I should say. And then that'll roll out and get stacked. But, you know, SpaceX is definitely on track to go on the 13th at this rate. And is it getting trailed and followed by Cybertrucks?
Perhaps there's been recently a delivery of Cybertrucks, and by the way, so just to point this out, we also have people in the field, and I've been told that we're gonna go quickly to Florida because this is not the only big booster rollout that is going on right now. Meanwhile, on the Space Coast, Blue Origin is rolling out their New Glenn booster for the second flight of New Glenn, hopefully happening in the next month or so. So we have a double rollout today. On the left-hand side, that you can see our views from Space Coast Live, our 24/7 live stream of pretty much whatever we can see from the Space Coast, right? From the press
Yeah.
side there on the Space Coast. But one of those things is, of course, Blue Origin's second New Glenn booster, Never Tell Me the Odds, it's called. So we've got Never Tell Me the Odds on the left, and meanwhile, Booster 15-2 on its second flight, heading out to the launch site. Now, on the case of Blue Origin's New Glenn, that's going to go out to the pad, and it's going to do a static fire test, hopefully in the next few weeks, and maybe a little bit later, launch Escapade by NASA. But yeah, I mean, this is exciting, folks. This is like the future is already here. We're seeing two big rockets. It's true that New Glenn is still smaller than Starship, right? But Ryan, like, this is still a huge rocket. It's as tall as SLS, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the booster you see on your right, which is super heavy, booster 15-2, that is 70 meters tall, 9 meters wide. It is the most powerful rocket booster ever built, but it is definitely not, Blue Origin definitely tried to join the party. Or I wouldn't say try to. They joined the party a little bit with New Glenn, which is 8 meters. Oh, I forget exactly how tall the actual booster is off the top of my head. It's been a minute. But it goes, 8.4 at the skirt, if I remember correctly. And like, these are two gigantic rocket boosters, two of the most powerful rockets in the world, and they're both rolling out. It's exciting. One's for launch, one's for static fire and launch, as Alex was saying. So, yeah, it's exciting. We don't get this often, and we might get this more and more often as time goes by. And heck, how about a super heavy rollout past the VAB and a New Glenn kind of going behind it?
That would be cool.
Both refurbished boosters, and then a Falcon 9 behind it, just because.
And they're both reusable. Like that's the future as well, where we are right now, where it's not just SpaceX with Falcon 9. This is not 2016 where we're like, oh my gosh, this is only Falcon 9. Now it's getting into the position. We're getting into this sort of position now, where multiple rockets from multiple companies are now being designed to be reusable, either partially or fully reusable. And that's really exciting. And this is sort of the future that everybody was hoping for just 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, for that matter. Now, of course, I have not forgotten that it's not just me or Ryan here working on this stream. As always, we have a producer. On this one, we've got Jay Keegan, pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons and everything. I know he will say something like, oh, you forgot about me. I didn't forget about you. I just, I'm doing the introductions a little bit of time. And also, because this is sort of, related, I guess, we have in the field Gage, which is trying to get us a feed as well from his car. We'll try to see if we can, put it in the... There we go. That's the feed that I was talking about. And it's a struggle because, it's in the field, it's a moving car and everything, so the signal can do... So shout out to both of them, both Gage for being in the field and trying to get us this feed, because it's cool. Like this is what you will see if you were there on your car and trying to, be essentially stuck in the road behind the booster, right? And then at the same time, Jay trying to jiggle, some of the waves, if you will, to try to bring us all of this to you guys for watching this live. But in any case, we already have questions in chat because I said the whole thing about, at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. So I already have picked up a few questions that we can maybe answer as we see here Booster 15 roll out to the pad. So what do you say, Ryan? Shall we go?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. So I think there's one interesting, which I really think it's very appropriate, from High Reactivity. They're asking, could you guys discuss in detail about the booster landing sequence for Flight 11, please? And I think that's very appropriate for what we're seeing and also what we're about to see, hopefully in a few days, which is that weird landing sequence. Ryan, can you tell us a little bit what's sort of the plan there, and why is it even important? Like, why are they doing that? Yeah,
basically, well, the first part of the landing is going to be the same, basically. So they'll glide back down after the boost back burn. They'll do their 13 engine startup, but instead of down selecting to 3, they're going to down select to 5. I think I got to remember engine numbers, but I think it's 7 and 11. My guess is what they're going to use. Because basically on Block 3 of Booster, with the way the engines are laid out are slightly different than the current one. So basically, they'll activate the 3 centers, and then they'll activate 2 that are on the inner ring of 10. So basically, it'll be 1 that's a little bit off-centered and 4 that are more or less in a straight line. Kind of like the 131, but it won't be, though, because it'll be like a 5-3 or maybe a 5-3-2 is what it might end up being when later down the line for Block 3 of Booster. But basically, they're going to activate engines in a line, kind of like Falcon 9. My guess is this is definitely for more control during the landing burn, but it's also for better engine out capability. So basically, if they activate 5 on the landing burn and 1 or 2 of them doesn't start, they still have 3 or 4 or heck even 2 to slow the booster down. And remember, they're using Raptor 3 now, which means they got more thrust. So even with 2 engines, your control's going to be a little iffy when it comes to actually controlling the booster in the right orientation, but you're going to have enough thrust to slow down. That's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to test that for the next booster.
Yeah, so this is sort of one of the key things here, because it's not just the booster that is doing something that we'll see on future versions of Starship, right? Because also the ship, if I'm not mistaken, it's also doing this sort of thing that SpaceX calls dynamical banking or something like that, right? Where they're saying that this is the kind of maneuvers that they're going to be doing, that the ship is going to be doing once it returns back to Starbase for a catch. So I feel like, I don't know what you think, but I feel like Flight 11 is going to give us a glimpse into what we're going to see with Block 3, version 3, whatever, word you want to use for that, the next generation of Starship vehicles. And I think that's really cool. And hopefully, we get a full mission instead of, something like we saw earlier in the year where some of the missions were not fully complete, right? So yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Somebody was asking in chat, Nick was saying, do we have an approximate launch date yet? And I think that's also an important question to deal here, because suddenly we were covering a few weeks ago the Ship 38 static fire. We didn't know when it was going to be, blah, 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 right? But now we do. Now we actually have a launch date, not just from notices or anything. SpaceX has confirmed that, in fact, we are tracking October 13th at 6:15 p.m. Central Time. Looks to be about 75 minutes long until 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So it's going to be just like 5 days from now, a bit over 5 days. So yeah, it's really gonna be
Monday.
It's right around the corner, essentially. We have also some support here already in our software and whatnot. So I'm gonna hit some of that as well, because we have a $50 tip from Nicole. And they were talking about the UK meetup video and everything. Thank you for sharing the UK meetup videos. It was great to finally see what Chris looks like. Look, this is one of those things that we put out to members because we thought it was worth it, right? We have that meetup in the UK this last weekend, and you guys are essentially the way that we are able to do any of this, like all of these cameras, all of these feeds, all of the data that is being used for this as well. We can do that because of your support. So, it was not just a meetup with like less than 200 people, but also we tried to give that feed to you guys, members, all levels. You'll be able to see that.
You got to see Chris with his hair and makeup done and everything, looking all nice for people. Yeah. So.
But yeah.
It's the joke he likes to always make.
And of course, we also have a bunch of, we have 2 people already here that have become members. So we have Steve Lalonde. I'm really sorry if I butchered your name. Becoming a Red Team member. We've got Nick, which I got one of their questions before, becoming a PadRat member, and they also gifted 5 Red Team memberships. So thank you for that support. Again, it's what allows us to do what we do. And on that same note, Ryan, we're seeing now here that booster has either it slowed down or it stopped. What do you think is happening there?
It looks like it's, well, I think it's still going, at least from what I can tell. I don't think
Yeah.
it's stopped or anything. It's just the angle that it is. It just looks so weird, but it's still going along just fine.
Might be the parallax.
Yeah, it's the camera angle and everything else. Sometimes, especially something this big, without a reference point near it, it might look like it's sitting still. But they're actually going pretty quickly here. They've already gone around that bend and they're passing LBJ, so they're making good time to the launch site.
Yep. Now we can see some of those Cybertrucks coming close here. I really wonder what they did. I've seen some pictures. They seem to have brought those also to other facilities at SpaceX. So I guess they just did a bulk buy or something. Ah! They hit the... Have you seen that?
Oh. Oops.
Okay, well. Let's see. Oh, we just got from Astro 95 Media. He says, Ryan and Alex, when will you gents be joining us for a launch? Keep up the great coverage. We're grateful. Look, that's super great. I would love to go. The problem is sometimes I'm more needed here in studio than in the field, right? I will not be able, like, this is, for example, our camera CP11 out there. We have our team out there in the field, Gage, Jerry, Cesar, and soon maybe Jag as well, going, out there and cleaning the camera and changing batteries. And I don't know how to do all that. I don't understand about cameras. I don't understand about, any of that. I will probably be a hassle more than, than anything else. So that's why I don't really travel to Starbase. I want to, but, I'll do once things are more advanced, if you will. And little stop there. Letting the SPMTs rest, I'm guessing.
Maybe. Something.
But there we can see they're stopped, and let's go again.
Yeah. Looking at something,
just
maybe.
Just to, breathe a little bit, let the SPMTs rest. But now we'll be able to see that close-up of the booster as it comes by our highway lot. It's already here. Like, it's only been 20 minutes, and it's already, like, what? More than a third of the way out?
They've been able to do these in about 40-45 minutes with boosters if they're quick enough. Without any, like, little stops or anything. They've been able to do them in less than an hour. They've got the system down. I mean, and for the next generation of booster, this won't change at all. It'll be the same counterweight setup. It'll be the same transport stand, except for the stabilizers pins you see on the transport stand there that are on the top deck. Those will go away for Block 3 because they designed a whole clamp system for a... Ooh, that's a nice view. They designed a whole clamp system to help center it better, so they actually don't need the stabilizer pins anymore. So the stand will stay the same. It's just some things on it will get changed when we move to the new booster design.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach out to our back channel and see if we can have that SPMT audio. Oh yeah. Let's try and listen in for a little bit.
power's on.
That's really cool. Look at that. And you have humans for scale there, which is always impressive. I feel like a lot of times, because we see these boosters and ships and whatnot through cameras, right? And because it's like very far away from the cameras and whatnot, or it's next to even bigger things like the towers there in the background, right? It feels like they're smaller than they are actually, right? And so when you've got those people next to it, I mean, the SPMTs are as tall as a human, right? And now you got the stand itself, and then you've got the booster with a hot staging ring as well up top and all that. It's really impressive.
6 are up and in position waiting for the booster for one last time.
Indeed. More Cybertrucks waiting there.
They're doing this during the day with drones. They had a windy lift up as they were rounding the corner onto Remedios coming out of the rocket garden. They're doing a photo op for the last for this last rollout of this booster design.
Gauge cam.
Yeah, gauge cam.
I've been told that this is nicknamed the Gauge Mobile because it's his car. But
It's Gauge Mobile.
yeah.
Copy.
Yeah. But anyways, we still have more questions here, so I'm gonna try and bring them in as usual. I feel like, we got here from Mr. Rocketman. They're asking, do we know how many Starship flights are planned for 2026? I feel like that's also somewhat connected to this flight, because this is most likely going to be the last one of 2025. Let's face it, right? Because it's very hard to see. The pad might be ready, perhaps, but the boosters and ships and whatnot for the first flight of Block 3 will definitely not be ready this year. So, how many flights do you think they're going to be launching, Ryan, in 2026?
There's so many things that depends on. It depends on when the first Block 3 goes, and it also depends on how well it goes. Because if they have issues with it right off the bat, I don't know if they'll probably stick with the same mentality that they did with Block 2, which is push, push, push. But if they were to run into an issue with the booster or something, like during ascent or during initial takeoff or something along those lines, that might cause issues or something like that. But let's assume that, for the sake of this question, let's assume that the first flight of Block 3 goes well. It starts off on a high note. Basically, it goes perfect, and it's somewhere in the realm of March, April, is where I've been thinking. I mean, considering the amount of backlog they have for vehicles, if they don't run into many issues, I could see 8 flights next year. If the pad refurb should be much quicker this time around. If they can build these vehicles quicker, and not only that, they're going to start reusing boosters more. So I would expect Block 3 boosters to start getting reused B19 and up, or at least B20 and up, depending on which one is caught and which one they're comfortable starting to reuse again. And then ships becomes the big question. When they do catch a ship, I don't think ship's going to be ready to be reused right away. I think it'll take like 2 or 3 catches and some modifications to the ship, and then they'll start reusing them, is what my thinking. There's a chance we get a reused ship by the end of the year, but I'm not going to push that one. But I think we could get 8.
I'm seeing already quite a heated debate here, because they say, let's be real. And some people are trying to challenge me about that. We'll see. I mean, I would love to be proven wrong. I mean, if we see a Block 3 launch this year, look, as impossible it might seem for me, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been so owned. We get to see another Starship launch this year. Right? Like, come on. I'd be glad if we had more, right? More better.
The quicker they launch that, I'll be happy. We get to see the first launch of that, plus out of that pad and everything. Are they going to launch Block 3 this year? No, not a chance. It's not ready. None of
Yeah.
it. None of the systems are ready.
And
But I can't wait for it to launch. It's not. I know a lot of people are like, you just don't want to launch. I would love it to launch, but I'm just looking at it based off timelines and where everything is.
And on that same note, my answer to this question was going to be I have two answers as usual, right? One is my hopes. I hope we can see like a dozen of Starship launches next year, and at least two of them are from 39A. Like I would love to see at least two
Ooh, yeah.
launches, like maybe have a launch in the summer time frame or something like that, and then another one in the fall time frame, for example, so they can have enough time to ship another booster, another ship, and whatever from Starbase and all that. Like I would love for it to be a dozen or so, because I feel like that's sort of the sweet spot for, because they're about to do 5 launches this year, right? Dozen, it will be like a little bit over 2 times the amount of launches that we will have. And it feels like it's right there where, with a dozen of these, there's a guarantee that at least 2 of them will be part of that, cryogenic in-space refilling test, right? That will be an interesting thing to see next year. Hopefully we do get it finally. Reality, my gut says that it's probably going to be 7 or 8 or even less than that, but we'll see. I really, really want it to be more than this year, though. But with a new block, it's always, a challenge, as we've seen this year, because they debuted Block 2, and, well, they had, plans for 25 launches at some point, and unfortunately, 20 of those got missing on the way. They only got 5, but, such is a spaceflight, and that's how it is. Anyways, let's continue, because we can see here already, it's sort of like getting to the pad, but it's still not fully there. So we can continue with some of the questions, as always. Tag at NASASpaceflight in chat, or at NSF as well. Now we have that option as well. And there's one question here from somebody, which I know them already, person. Starry Sam is asking, when do you think they will do a static fire directly after lowering the booster back onto pad 2 after catch? So this is like, obviously, the kind of question that I will expect from Starry Sam, right? Where it's like, a super technical question that we really can only guess, right? But I would love to find out. And like, I'm assuming it's like, you just come back with a booster after a catch, and now you static fire it. I'm thinking my answer to this is that we may not even see a static fire at all. Like, it's just going to be caught and just launch it again, right? Because the static fire, if you will, has been its flight. It's already flown. It's done the thing, right? It's demonstrated that it can fly. So I don't know what you think, Ryan.
If they take the booster back into the bay and do stuff to it, then I would think they would probably do another static fire. But if they are just going to put it right back on the pad and go for a launch again, I think they would try the no static fire thing. They might they'll probably still do inspections to be sure, because the last thing SpaceX needs is to put a booster on that pad, fuel it up, go for a launch, and then the entire stack goes on the pad. They don't want that. So if they are comfortable doing it, then they'll do it. They'll do that. But I honestly could see them putting a booster back on the pad after a catch, maybe even later next year. There's a chance. It depends on how far along or how well Block 3 booster is performed. Do some quick inspections on it, and if everything's good to go, they static fire it right away. They basically static fire it without ever rolling it back, and then they just roll out another ship and go. There's a chance that they do that by the end of next year. Booster has gone very, very well, but granted, Block 3 is a kind of clean sheet design. So,
yeah, I do expect them to move on with reusability, reuse boosters, and reuse ships, the same way that they do now with Falcon 9. If you look at what they do, they don't static fire those. Like, they do it ahead of their first time. They go to McGregor. They have their own dedicated stand there. We recently saw one of those, by the way, with B1100. They're already at the 100th Falcon 9 booster. And they did a static fire, and hopefully in a few months, if not, a little bit under a year, we might see that fly. But it's not going to do another static fire. And if they reuse it, in this case, it's going to be reused because it's a Falcon 9 booster. They're probably going to be not static firing it again at all. Like, it's just going to fly and fly and fly and fly. And the flight, that already, gives you all of the information about the booster, about all of the stuff. You just give it an inspection and just fly it again. No need for static fires ahead of the next launch. But, one of the things that I really... because one of the things that I really wanted to point out, because we were talking about static fires and whatnot, there's still a rollout underway at the Cape. And so we'll check in here, because New Glenn, for the second flight of New Glenn, that New Glenn booster is rolling by the VAV in front of our Space Coast live cameras at the press site. And look at that. I mean,
Yeah.
It's quite a thing, because the VAV is huge. And that thing, it's less huge, but it's still huge, right? In comparison, it doesn't look that small in comparison with the VAV.
No, it's about the size of an SLS core stage, give or take. But actually reusable. Poor
Exactly.
Poor RS-25s. Anyways, yeah.
And that's the important thing, that we're now in the era of reusable rockets. Like, as I said earlier in the stream, right? 10 years ago, it seemed like it was, SpaceX only doing Falcon 9, and everybody else was like, yeah, we'll see if it works and whatnot. Blue Origin was trying to do that as well with you, Shepard, but, Blue Origin was sort of like, yeah, we'll do New Glenn eventually, and eventually is now. Now they're actually flying New Glenn. They did a flight in January. Hopefully we'll get to see another flight in the coming weeks, and it's rolling out for a static fire test and launch.
So, Alex,
Yeah.
I ask you, do you think they will land this booster on this flight? You think they land it and redo? Okay, I will say we'll make it a two-parter. Do they land it, and then do they land it and then reuse it and fly it again?
Well, I've heard that if they land it, they really want to reuse it like on the third launch of New Glenn, and really quickly, like they want to launch that, I think, in January or February timeframe. So it will be like a 2-month, 3-month turnaround.
Oh boy,
I'm not sure. We'll
I don't know
see,
about that.
because it's the first time they will be landing this booster. It's a huge booster. Let's be honest.
I mean, well, here's the thing I would say, but granted, they do have experience with refurbishing boosters. Granted, they're a lot smaller. They're a lot smaller, and they're not Methalox. But you also have to say the same thing for SpaceX. They had a ton of experience refurbishing Falcon 9, and it didn't take them long to refurbish Booster 14 to fly it again. It didn't really take them that long to do it.
Yeah.
So...
And the third launch of New Glenn is supposed to carry their own payload, so they could take the risk, if you will, right? In quotes, risk. I mean, we know already that reusable rockets work, but the first time reusing a booster, it's a bit of an unknown, right? But yeah, so I don't know about the chances of landing, as the booster says. Never tell me the odds, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like an homage to Star Wars and things like that. And I want them to land it. I really hope for the best, because it will be cool to see them returning that booster to Port Canaveral. We'll see it also on Space Coast Live. By the way, 2 of those covers have fallen off in this whole transporter. Yeah. They were transporting it from their integration hangar at the Exploration Park campus, close to the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. If you've been there, you might have seen their production facilities and everything.
It's just one of those things, as I'm thinking, is static fire in a few weeks and maybe launch within a month and a half, I think is what they're trying to do at least. It'd be my expectations for New Glenn if things go right. If things go right, we'll go with that.
I want to tackle from Mr. Puppy, because they asked why SpaceX don't cover the engines while other space agencies do. They actually cover them. So on that transporter that you see on the right with Booster 15, the engines have covers on them. And when they do that as well with Falcon 9s, they also have covers. they do cover their engines. It's very like it's a thing that we don't see a lot with Starship, because first, when a lot of people look up things like the engines and things like that, when it is the booster, it is being lifted from the mount, and it's put on the or like from the transporter, the booster transporter, and then put on the mount, or vice versa, right? And they always have those covers, but they have now these covers are like more like jackets. Instead of fully covering the rocket engine, right? What they do is they cover just the nozzle and only the outside instead of the exit of the nozzle. So it's a bit of a change, but that's what they do.
You know, what's funny is with the new pad, as of right now, whenever they go to lift a booster onto pad 2, they won't have they won't have engine covers on, because they have no way of taking them off on that pad unless they were to build a whole scaffolding floor under the mount. They have no work platform to put under that pad to then take engine covers off. So that means they're going to lift without engine covers, which will be cool. It means we get to see serial numbers. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that. And yeah, it's cool to see these two boosters roll out, and all the steps all companies are making, make sure their engines are nice and not damaged or dirty.
But yeah, I actually saw another question about like what is that a private road for Blue Origin? And I gotta tell you that it's not a private road. It is a public-ish road. So like it's within the Kennedy Space Center, but you gotta be badged to go through the Kennedy Space Center. That's where we're looking at that booster, that New Glenn booster, rolling by our cameras. So it is not a private road. That I can tell you. It's just a public/restricted road. Essentially, you gotta have the right permissions to drive there. Highway 4 though, it is a public road, and you can pretty much be behind that booster, Jay. Maybe we can bring. There we go. See what I did. You can actually drive and be behind that booster there on Highway 4. It's a public road. So far. So yeah, that's the view from Gage, our sort of representative in the field, if you will, of the many folks that are out there in the field. I'm probably sure that Cesar is also out there. Jerry had to go out, unfortunately, but he'll be probably supporting some of the upcoming Florida launches, which is always exciting. One of the changes as well in recent months, because they're doing this thing that it's called now the mega. Oh, I like this view. You know why? Because it feels like a progress bar of sorts. You know, it's already very close to the launch site. But as I was saying, they've built like this massive building now at the old entrance to the launch site, which they call the mega bunker. I feel like it needs to be the mega bunker or something like that. I don't know. So they're building that, and now what they're doing is in the last few months they've been using the new one at the corner. So they're going to be using that. We're going to see that booster sort of, depending on the view that we choose, right? It's either going to be behind the Tower 2 or in front of Tower 2. So that's going to be really cool. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a few minutes. And I'm going to hit a couple of support messages here that we have, because they've been sitting here in the queue, and I think it's already time that we deal with them. So we've got Ratbait becoming a PadRat member. I guess that's sort of a bit ironic. Ratbait PadRat member. Yeah, I guess that was part of the joke,
Words?
right?
Words? What?
Exactly. And then Farad Raza, sorry if I butcher your name, with the super chat saying, will they also be repeating everything from the previous slide? Will be nice to see Starlink replicas not booping while going out. Mm-hmm. So Ryan, what's sort of the general planning, apart from that weird booster landing that we talked about?
It's basically going to be an exact replica of the last flight. The only other difference with Chip, other than doing, is basically the dynamic banking that they want to do, Which I wonder if that's an attempt to like see what their glide ratio is and how much drag they can apply to see like once you're subsonic, and you've gone through all the heating and everything, and you're starting to really go through the thick, the atmosphere, and whatnot. I wonder if that's a way to see if how well they can control the ship. Like if they were off course, can they glide it back to course? If they were, could they try to get a little more glide out of it to divert it a little bit easier? Or, add more drag to it to slow it down more. Like if they overshoot or undershoot, could they adjust? I wonder if that's what the dynamic banking is for. I'm kind of curious, or if it's just a structural test or something along those lines. It could be a couple of different things. But that's basically the only other difference. They're still going to do the in-space burn. They're going to do they're going to put 8 sim links in. Hopefully those get put in tomorrow, Friday. I'm hoping. Hopefully roll out within the next few days of that ship. So they'll have to do that first. And then that's pretty much it. That's going to copy and paste suborbital flight into the Indian Ocean. Flight 12 is probably going to be the same with some extra experiments in it. And as Bill had said, I think it was in a symposium, if that goes well, then they will try for orbit on Flight 13. But as of right now, they're going to stick to suborbit.
And to be fair, the thing here with, they're repeating again the same profile and whatever, it might seem tiring and annoying that they're still doing the same profile, but one of the benefits of doing the same profile is the repeatability, right? Like you're not just making it all as you go, right? Like you're trying to compare one with the other by doing the same profile. That allows you to better compare, right? And it's also the current profile that they can do, to be honest. Like if they wanted to go to orbit, they need to make sure that they are actually 100% going to come out of orbit, because that thing will start tumbling and everything and re-enter, and it's more than 100 tons of steel with a heat shield that you could see big chunks of steel hitting the ground, and if it hits populated areas, that's not good.
You don't want
that part is important.
A Starship Long March 5B situation. Like isn't it the B?
Yeah.
That when they do that burn, it literally it's completely ballistic, and it could just re-enter wherever. You do not want that.
Where did the booster go?
You do not want that with Starship. That stage is aluminum and will most likely burn up. There might be chunks that survive over. Starship is stainless steel, and it's got a heat shield. If that thing were to re-enter even partially with that heat shield facing in remotely the right direction, large chunks of that vehicle could survive through re-entry and do some serious damage if they were to, say, hit a city or anything like that. So SpaceX wants to be absolutely certain that when they go to orbit and they do that in-space burn, they can actually deorbit this thing and do it, on target and within a correct trajectory.
Yep. And so that is one of the things as well that are really important about these flights, because a lot of people always talk about, Starship has not reached orbit, and that is on purpose, right? Like they're trying to not mess things up, and that is very special. We saw earlier in the year these flights, flight 7 and 8, where the ship failed and then re-enter over the Caribbean. That was not great. Now imagine that, but you actually don't have any control where it happens, right? It's not in that very specially selected path of launch where they launch in that direction, and it's always going to be that area, right? They go into orbit, that thing fails for whatever reason, it cannot deorbit controllably, then that is not great. And they only have done this once with Block 2, once with Block 1 as well. Okay, it worked with Block 1 and it worked with Block 2, but once. They need to repeat it multiple times, which is why they're trying it again on this flight. And I wouldn't be surprised if on the first Block 3 flight, they do it again. They do another suborbital flight, and they do that relight as well. You can see here already, Booster 15 moving into the launch site area.
Look, it's the explosive placard. on the transport
Ooh.
stand, indicating that yes, FTS is installed. It was installed in the bay. So, if anyone to answer anyone's question on that one, we'll go with that.
Yeah, so flight termination system is installed. They don't need to do any of that at the launch site, thankfully, which means, less stuff that they need to do out there because, it can become a hassle to do
Remember
all
those
of that
days,
out
Alex?
there.
Remember those
Yeah, I
days?
do.
Like they put the booster on, and then you'd see
It was
two
less than a
lifts
year ago,
go
by the way.
up. Yeah, right. And they're installing the FTS while it's on the pad. And I remember when they did it for like the first time. I think it was Booster 9 when they added extra explosives in it. It took them like all night. It took them like 12 to 24 hours to do the whole thing. And now they can do it pretty quick if they have to.
Yeah. And so it looks like it is already at the launch site area. That's great. Now we're gonna see it. It's gonna go from one corner of the launch site all the way out to pad 1. So it's gonna take a little bit, but at least it's no longer on Highway 4. So traffic will be happy. That is also beneficial because you can see up top on the left, it's been less than 50 minutes on the road. So that's not a lot of disruption. I mean, it's a bit of disruption, let's be honest, right? It's the biggest, most powerful booster in the world on the road, but it's for less than an hour. Well, it's not like you're going to be delayed that much if you're going to work. If you're going to work out there, you're probably going to be working on that thing anyways. But yeah, so let's gonna hit a few more questions and support. I'm gonna hit first support because this thing is already yelling at me. We also have from Forward Raza as well saying thanks to all videographers out there from me, please. Thank you for your hard work. I'm sure they're gonna be appreciating your support because this is again lots of times we say this, but I feel like we don't say it that often lately, and we really need to point that out that we can do this because you guys support us, and the support doesn't need to be oh, I give you money. No. Just watching this, what you're doing, you're watching us, right? And liking and sharing with other people, like out there. There's people that are not even aware that this is happening, right? Like. How cool would it be that this will be more talked about and not talked about in a bad manner, right? We love that. We love it when things are being treated fair and square, and being covered by what they are and not what some people might want to talk about them and whatnot. But we also have another support with a question as well. Shasper Todd Bot. Sorry for that because. Yeah, that was a little bit weird. Probability of an actual launch on the first listed date of October 13th. Ryan. So that is the everlasting question, if you will, where it's like we've got multiple flights, 10 flights already, but flight 10, we had multiple scrubs. Do you think we're going to get another scrub? Like, what's the weather like on Monday and things like that?
As of right now, Monday is mostly sunny with a high near 87. 6 to 13 mile an hour winds. Looking at the drops on data, granted, this is still a little ways out, so forecasting is always a lot of things can change, but it looks like perfectly clear skies through the day. There may be a chance of clouds around 7 p.m. local, but the current setup is basically what is it, 6:15. So if they hit the opening of the window right now, it should be perfectly clear skies as of this moment, which would be a nice send off to that pad and to this set of vehicles. But yeah, I would give it with vehicle readiness, pad readiness, and weather, I'd give it a 90% chance of going. So
yeah,
I'm pretty confident they'll hit that. They gave themselves more than enough time to get this thing ready.
And that's one of the things that we saw on Flight 10 that unfortunately, like, the vehicle, the pad, they were all ready. It was just the weather. The weather was just not great. They had, I think, upper level winds in one of those. They had anvil clouds in one of the other attempts as well. And you cannot control the weather. Yet, I guess. Give humanity a couple more centuries or something like that, and maybe that'll be a thing. But unfortunately, so far, that is not possible to say, oh, there's an anvil cloud. How can I get rid of it? And all that, right? Or upper level winds and that story. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the things. And yeah, we talk about it. Are we gonna do anything about it? We also have Chris W. This is one of our folks here in our support queue. Big shout out to everyone who came along to the UK EU meetup over the weekend. Now let's go Flight 11. Indeed, that is, one of the main concerns that we had planning the meetup was there's gonna be a Starship flight right around this weekend that we were gonna be planning it. And as the weeks rolled by, Flight 10 happened, and then we did the math, and it was like, if they do a turnaround like this or like that, then we're gonna have a Starship flight either that weekend or around the weekend. It's gonna be rather complicated. And then we got NOTAMs, or no, it was a local notice to mariners. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And it was pointing out October 6th, right the day after that weekend of the meetup, essentially last Monday. And now it's saying October 13th, of course, but when that came out, we were like, phew, thankfully. But yeah. Gonna be grabbing some more questions here from their queue, because we have Bob the Banana saying, why is it that the pads are so far away for the megabase in Star Factory? Ryan, can you tell us why? And I'm gonna guess already the answer, but for those that may have no clue.
I guess the other example for that is the VAB is about 3 miles away from 39A and B. The reason for that being is because when back in the day NASA did a study and went, what happens if an entire Saturn V fully fueled explodes on the pad? Well, they want at least a 3-mile radius to be protected. Well, SpaceX is about 1.5 miles away at this point, 1.5, give or take. It's shorter, but it does seem like, at least by some of the data SpaceX has put out, is that a full stack explosion of a Methalox rocket would be more like a fireball rather than, say, any kind of a detonation. Basically, because you'd basically just aerosolize and burn the methane, more or less. It's one of those things is we've never really seen a full Methalox rocket fully explode. Not the whole thing anyways. Ship 36 was our best example, and it wasn't really an explosion. I mean, it was an explosion, but it wasn't much of a detonation per se. It was more of a fireball than anything else. And if a full stack were to do the same, it would probably produce a big fireball, but I don't think it would produce a shockwave big enough to do any damage to the production site. And that's why, they're able to have it that far away. So they have it that far away to protect it. That's literally it.
Yeah,
the long way to get there, but you're trying to use examples as to why. But yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of the reason, right? Like, you don't want to have it next to a launch pad where you've got potentially, in theory, in the future, 2 of the world's most powerful rockets, right? That wouldn't be great. And also the fact that when they do a launch, they need to evacuate the launch site. You cannot have anybody there. So at least with this sort of arrangement, if you will, of where things are located at Starbase, they can still continue, even though they may, get around and everything and watch the launch and all that. But yeah, that's one of the things that I really appreciate, that they have their launch site close to their production site, but not literally next to it, and that's important. But you can have launches close to you if you go to our merch store and you've got one of our prints, because these are really, really cool. We have now a sort of a select offer here, sale of 20% off in certain prints, because we're celebrating Space Week. If you remember, October 4th, was the date of the launch of Sputnik, the first satellite to go into orbit. Nice cube suit, by the way, Jay. And so some of the prints that we have in our store are also now, with 20% off. You can get, look at that, like the catch, the launch of Starship. You can have SLS 20% off, and these come as metal, but also paper ones, which are a little bit, cheaper for those that may not be able to afford the metal ones. So you've got both all of those that are listed there are all of them 20% off for you guys to be able to celebrate Space Week. Celebrating, I think it is already 68 years, right? Ryan, am I doing the math correct? That was 1957. So we're 2 years away from 70 years of orbital space flight.
Yeah, that math checks out in my head. As of
really,
where my brain is right now, that is, we'll go with that.
really, really cool. There's a chance, perhaps, maybe, that we'll also get to that HLS, that human landing system, by the time of at least the uncrewed demo, by the time of the 70th anniversary. I really want to see that. But yeah, and that kind of thing. It's not just us. Oh, here's the merch store or whatever. Every bit of support helps, and that you can get a really cool print in your wall. And you also support us, and you also support the person that took that picture as well, because part of the sale goes out to that person as well. So fair game, right? Bit of a win-win situation here. Anyways, we can see it's already almost at pad 1, and it's been less than an hour. Look at that.
Yeah, they got quick with these rolls. It should be just about as quick with the newer boosters. I can't wait to see one of those get lifted onto that pad and we get close-up shots of that engine bay. That new engine bay looks so nice. I can't wait to see it. But for now, this is what we've got until that happens, and it's I guess it is kind of is it a somber note or is it just a melancholy, whatever the word you want to use. This is going to be the last time that these sticks ever lift one of these boosters. It's possible it's the last time these sticks ever lift a booster, period. If these sticks get scrapped or not, it's still kind of up in the air whether or not they redo them entirely. They just modify them. We'll see. But yeah, it's the end of an era for the program.
Indeed. And I want to deal with one question that I just saw in our queue. Finn asks, when is the next Starbase update in This Week in Spaceflight? I know you all were busy with the EU meetup. Just wondering. That is a great question. I'm going to deal with that right now, which is next Starbase update. It's going to go out today at 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're also going to have a countdown to launch later today as well. So it's going to come out right after. That's the hope, at least. We'll see. Ryan, shout out to Ryan Caden. He's, pulling through and trying to push through the editing and everything. Yeah, we had that EU meetup. We were not able to have any other writer outside of the EU meetup, essentially. So I was the only one available for writing. I had to wait until Monday. So we're trying to go through that editing right now. And yeah, This Week in Spaceflight, in that case, it was the editor, not the writer. We actually had all 3 writers of This Week in Spaceflight at the UK meetup. That was super cool. We had a selfie and everything. But this week we'll return, and I think it's also Alicia as well on camera and everything. So this week, after that This Week in Spaceflight, it should be all back to normally, regularly scheduled program, if you will. Look at that. It's already there. It's just like nothing.
Now to yeah, it's pretty quick. Now to turn it, line it up, get the SPMTs in a perfect position so that the stand is in a perfect position, so the booster's in a perfect position so that the sticks can grab it accurately. It is probably one of the few things of the system of using the sticks to put it on the mount that's a little bit tedious, is you have to get these boosters and ships positioned perfectly. Otherwise, they'll come out of the stand a little wonky, or or they might bang against something if you don't do it right. That has already happened once. It was 16, I think it was, after its static fire. Was it 16 or was it? I think it was 16. Trying to remember which booster off the top of my head it was that they tried to put it back down on the mountain, but it didn't really go that great. It still flew though, without any issues. But
Yeah.
it kind of looked like it went ding. It's like, oops. Things happen,
We have, so this is an interesting question, and I think geometry will solve this question, will answer this question, excuse me, from Kelly asking, will the timing of this launch allow transiting the sun photos? If so, make it happen for a metal print. I'm sure our photographers are anxiously waiting for such an opportunity. The problem is, I think, if I'm not wrong, since this is going east, right? A transiting shot, because it's going to be sunset, the sun is actually going to be on the west. And that means the photographer will have to be on the east from where the launch site is located. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the Gulf. One of the things that you might see across our sites is we've got one on the south, we've got one on the north, a little bit to the west, right? But there's no sites on the east. And the whole reason for that is there's water there. It's the Gulf is there, right? So we unfortunately cannot do that yet, that transiting shot, but I'm sure we'll get to it when the conditions are right. And our photographers, I'm sure they're gonna be, really stoked to be able to get that opportunity whenever it happens. Let's see, because I also have a question here from Jane Bailey, or Bale. I'm really sorry about butchering your names. Not too used to do this. The 13th is a holiday. Are they going to let them launch on a holiday? Ryan, is that one of those holidays that they can sort of skip closing the road, or is it one of those that it's like no, you cannot close the road or the beach or anything?
Columbus Day doesn't matter. Truly, it doesn't matter. They can close the road, they can launch, and all that stuff. It doesn't get in the way.
Yeah, so essentially it doesn't really affect the launch in this case. And if you remember, guys, last year, October 13th was the launch of Flight 5. That was the catch of Booster 12. And it's really interesting that we may see this launch of a reused booster, the second time they are reusing a booster here just a year after the first catch of a booster. We got from KSAT, and I think this is perfect for you, Ryan, because don't they have any guidelines on the ground or to help with the alignment? Much in the same way airports have lines on the tarmac for airplanes.
So they do have embeds around there that they can line up with. I wonder if the other part of it is, I think they also use GPS to do it as well, like incredibly accurate GPS to line it up. And it's kind of fun where they have to put it in, because there's like a little bit of a doghouse. Ooh, that's a nice.
Ooh, that's a really cool view.
There's a little bit of a doghouse there for the OLM that kind of it's not in the way, but it gets close to in the way. It's kind of fun for them to line it up. We'll just go with that. It just takes a little bit of finicky and precise movements and stuff like that. It'll be the same thing for the next pad. It's not really going to change that much. The only thing that's going to change for the next pad is that because of the wider pad, they had to do a modification on the water manifold so the ship aft flap wouldn't hit it. We're not going to go into that right now, but yeah.
And I'm also seeing some questions in chat as well relating to when the lift might happen. And I feel like we've seen recently that pretty much a couple of hours, maybe 3 or 4 hours after the booster has rolled out to the pad, they have already lifted it, right? Like it's not like the old days where we had to wait days even to see them being lifted on the launch mount. Nowadays it's like roll, prepare a few hours, the booster and the chopsticks and whatnot. They lift it, they put it on the pad, and yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say
yeah.
it'll probably be lifted this evening, give or take. The hope is during CTL. That's the hope for you, Alex. You know, maybe it'd be cool for that to happen. When a sunset lift, that'd be kind of a cool thing, or like late afternoon one. But we'll see when they do it.
And we got a question from Sadus Manny. I don't know where they may have heard about this. Is it true that the ship quick disconnects on the new towers are movable up and down? Is that even true? I've not heard any of this, Ryan. What do you think?
So the current setup on it's the tower at Roberts Road that has it as well as the Pad B tower. They literally just modified it over the last few weeks. There are 2 spots to hook up an actuator, and then there's 4 spots for hinges. So what looks like SpaceX is going to do is they added a new actuator hookup spot, and they're going to attach the ship QD arm on the lower 3 hinge points for Block 3 booster and Block 3 ship. Now, booster is getting taller. Now, granted, it's not going to get taller until Gigabase finished because they need Gigabay to make the booster taller right now. Otherwise, you literally wouldn't be able to even build it in the Mega Bay, let alone move it out of the Mega Bay. So that's down the line. But once Block 4 booster comes through and they put it up to, say, 80 meters or whatnot, or they make it taller, SpaceX is going to have to take that entire ship QD arm and move it up. So they'll have to disconnect all the stuff, then they'll have to grab a crane and then move the QD arm up on the tower and whatnot. And it looks like 37 is set up the same way as well. Basically, it's one of the first few times SpaceX is future-proofing, because they haven't really done that in this program in the past. They've been actually pretty bad with future-proofing. A company that's done a great job at future-proofing is Blue Origin, with making their tower incredibly tall for whatever rocket they want to. But SpaceX has kind of only built what they needed to, and now they're actually thinking ahead with their infrastructure at this time. So
Yeah, we'll see whenever that happens. It's one of those things that it's gonna be really interesting how they adapt to the future of Starship, and like not just the next generation, but future generations of boosters and ships. And there may or may not be a video in the works, precisely with at least a part of the video speculating about what will come next after Block 3 for the ground infrastructure. But I've got here on our queue as well, and I feel like it's very important to mention as well, because we saw the New Glenn booster rollout, and we are seeing here the booster 15 rollout at Starbase. But at the Space Coast, we also had a part of a Vulcan rocket from ULA rolling by. That is a Centaur 5 rolling by. It was like a few minutes before the Blue Origin New Glenn booster, which is rather amusing. But yeah, like we're seeing all of these rocket hardware moving around and everything. And this one in particular, there are some people that might disagree with me, but I think it's even the Leo optimized version. It's like this sort of stubby Centaur. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be talking about the Centaur, the stubby nozzle and everything. But yeah, it's a shorter version of the upper stage of Vulcan, and they're going to be using that for lower Earth orbit missions, such as Kuiper missions, for example, on Vulcan. And guess what? They're preparing for one of those in the next few months. So it's no surprise that we're now seeing potentially what appears to be a Leo optimized version of the Centaur 5 rolling by. It is a surprise though that they took the VAB road here, because it's not usual that we see that sort of hardware rolling by that part of the center. But still nice. It's always nice to see rocket hardware in the wild, if you will. So yeah, I mean, we're coming here. It's already what, 62 minutes or so that we've seen this booster rolling. It's waiting there. There might be adjusting things here and there and preparing it to put it between the chopsticks. And yeah, I feel like we're probably coming to a close here. I can maybe take a couple more questions. So if you're still in chat, do it now, or forever hold your question for the next stream, which we will later, of course, countdown to launch. That should be, if I'm not mistaken, at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. And there were also folks asking about the lift, if we're gonna stream that. We're gonna put that out on Starbase Live, mostly because it will be a lot of streams and whatnot. Again, we have a countdown to launch later today as well. If we've got that countdown to launch and that lift at the same time, of course, we're gonna have commentary live of that lift as we are on countdown to launch, also with face cams. So you're gonna see my face as well because I'm gonna be on that one. But Ryan, thank you for being with me here on commentary. It's always nice to to have some company.
It's a pleasure as always, Alex. Yeah, I can't wait to see this thing go. It'll be bittersweet. As much as I've bashed on this pad in the past, I mean, it has gotten this program to where it has been. So yeah, but yeah, I will not be on CTL tonight. I think that's gonna be it's either Friday or Saturday. I might be on. I don't know which one yet at this rate. But you at least have Alex. So
yeah. For a programming note, I'm probably going to be leaking maybe some of the plan, but I don't care. We have a Raptor site tomorrow because somebody else was asking about Raptor site today. Raptor sites are usually on Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. Central, right? So we're going to have that tomorrow, Thursday, which is why tomorrow we don't have a countdown to launch. So instead, you go to Starbase Live and you've got your little sort of countdown to launch, but it's still, Raptor site. We'll also have the coverage, hopefully the weather cooperates, of Kuiper Falcon 3 out of the Cape as well. And we will be back with the Flame Trench this Friday as well, because we were asked about this week in spaceflight and Starbase update and all that. We did not have a flame trench either last Friday. We will hope to see and have the people for a flame trench this week. We most likely will. And so we will have that as well in another countdown to launch on Saturday as well. So that's sort of a programming note for the next few live streams. Of course, I've been Alejandro Alcantarilla Romera. That's my full name, as you can see there on the top right. We also have in the background as well Jake Ian pulling all the levers, pushing all the buttons and everything. Thanks for producing the show. And of course, thanks to Gage for that, really, I don't know, car's eye view, I guess, of this whole process of what you will see if you were in your car driving behind the booster and now here parked, I guess, and waiting for that lift. But yeah, thanks all for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one. Stay tuned for much more activity because it's very active these days. Thanks for watching. Thanks.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight comes SC off. Say again, SC off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?